The Miami Dolphins dodged a major bullet. We're going to explain what that bullet is, but I am Nic Rohloff. This is Dolphins Today by Chat Sports. Miami has been criticized a lot about not making the right moves in the offseason, whether it is re-signing their own players, not going out and signing a different type of position group. But there is one player Miami did not re-sign to their roster, and in hindsight, it looks like a really good move. The bullet that Miami dodged? Well, letting Christian Wilkins walk in NFL free agency. Now, this did not happen this year. It happened in 2024. But given what has happened over the last 365 days for Christian Wilkins, it has just been, looking in hindsight, a great move that Chris Kerr ultimately made. On Friday, July 18th, Christian Wilkins was placed on the PUP list, physically unable to perform list, by the Las Vegas Raiders. Now, this is not an indictment on his status for this upcoming year, like he's going to miss the entire season. He could come off the PUP list at any time, but it has just further detailed and illustrated how that the contract Wilkins signed with Vegas in the offseason has not paid dividends for the Raiders to this point. And if we go back to the 2024 NFL offseason, Wilkins left Miami to join the Las Vegas Raiders on a 4-year, $110 million deal. They gave him $57.5 million guaranteed. That's what it says on Over the Cap. And then if you do quick math, it's $27.5 million in an annual average value for Christian Wilkins. That's a massive contract. It's the second highest paid defensive tackle in the NFL, just trailing the Kansas City Chiefs D lineman Chris Jones. But when you look at what Wilkins has done for the Raiders, it has been basically nothing. Christian Wilkins played just 5 games last season for the Raiders. And it actually cost Miami as well in the compensatory formula. If he played just half of the games, 8 of them, well, he would have ended up netting Miami a 3rd-round comp pick due to his contract in the playing. But he did not even qualify for 25% of the snaps last season, which is why Miami's comp pick for Wilkins departing ended up being a 4th-rounder instead of 3rd-rounder. Remember, they got a 3rd for Robert Hunt. They got a 4th for Christian Wilkins. But when you look at why he missed time last season, he suffered a Jones fracture injury in his foot during October. That is a brutal injury for a defensive lineman. We always talk about certain injuries affecting certain different position groups a little bit differently, right? Well, when you look at the foot and the lower body for defensive linemen, that is like the most important, like vital muscles, bones for these players because they are so big. They require so much like quick explosive movement to where if he is consistently bothered by a bone and muscle in his foot, he's going to have a hard time being explosive, hard time generating enough pressure and force to get by a interior offensive lineman and make plays. So this is an injury that is certainly very serious for an interior defensive lineman. And if we go back just 1 month, on June 24th, Christian Wilkins was seen in a walking boot still for that foot injury. And it just is so tough to watch a player that was so good for the Miami Dolphins, like Christian Wilkins, to leave Miami and struggle. Now, it ultimately is a good thing in hindsight because if he was doing this and had that injury and took this long to recover for an injury while he was being paid that much money for the Dolphins, it would be an absolute disaster, which is why this is a bullet dodged by the Fins. But, like, it just is painful to watch see Wilk not be able to be on the football field and really help him. But with every issue that the Dolphins have had over the last 25 years not being able to win a playoff game, paying the wrong people like Tyreek Hill, Jalen Ramsey, Bradley Chubb, and then he gets hurt and misses an entire season. Could you have imagined if they allotted another massive contract like Christian Wilkins, getting paid over $100 million on an annual average value of $25 million, for him not to play football last season? We would have been so bad. We already were a good team last season, only winning 8 games. It would have been way worse at 5 or 6 games potentially, because when you paid him that money, you wouldn't have been able to pay other players. And then it would have obviously crippled you a little bit in terms of what you would be capable of doing spending-wise in the future this offseason and off seasons beyond as well. Miami dodged a bullet by not extending and re-signing Christian Wilkins in free agency to that big of a deal. More coming up here in a second, but shout out to Mando, the whole body deodorant that I trust to make sure I am never sweating and I am always smelling right. And with summer in full swing, it is hot, hot, hot. And more heat equals more sweat, which equals more stink potential. You've got to be ready. And I'm not messing around with my deodorant, which is why I trust Mando, who has launched something that takes sweat control to the next level. Introducing the Mando deodorant plus sweat control solid stick. It's double protection. Finally, you get the odor control you love with Mando plus powerful sweat control. Mando starter pack is perfect for new customers. It comes with solid stick deodorant, cream tube deodorant, 2 free products of your choice, like mini body wash and deodorant wipes, plus free shipping. And I mentioned deodorant wipes come potentially with that Mando starter pack. Well, that is actually my favorite product. I am always busy on the go, running errands, playing basketball, playing golf. And when I'm on the road, well, there's nothing more impactful for me than the deodorant wipes, so I can have a quick freshen up and make sure I'm never the smelliest person in the room, because boy, you do not want that. So as a special offer for listeners, new customers get 20% off site-wide with our exclusive code CHAT. Use code CHAT at shopmando.com for 20% off site-wide plus free shipping. shopmando.com. Please support our show and tell them we sent you. Mando's got you covered. Protect your pits. Smell great doing it. Links in the description and comments of today's video. Shout out to Mando. So we mentioned that the Dolphins bypassed paying Christian Wilkins that type of money, and although every contract would have been different, so maybe it would have been more backloaded than front-loaded for C. Wilk for Miami, but when you just look at the face value of $27.5 million a season for Wilkins, Miami turned around, didn't give that to him, and ultimately used it to spread out money for some other players. And you could make the same argument for Robert Hunt, but I think if we could go back in time, we would have liked to re-sign Robert Hunt due to how bad our offensive guard play was a season ago. But if you just look at these contracts Miami handed out in free agency, Jordyn Brooks, Kendall Fuller, Aaron Brewer, Jonnu Smith, Jordan Poyer, like you add up all of these contracts and it gets to just around where the money would have been for Christian Wilkins. And this just shows you that would you rather have paid Christian Wilkins the money that he got, or would you have been able to use that money to pay these 5 players? And although Kendall Fuller, Jonnu Smith, and Jordan Poyer won't be with the Dolphins in 2025, Aaron Brewer was an unbelievable addition, top 10 center in football. Jordyn Brooks was a phenomenal addition to this team, and he still got another couple of years under contract, and he is going to be your starting middle linebacker for the next couple of years to come. Like, Jonnu obviously was an incredible return on investment, but getting Aaron Brewer on a 3-year deal, getting Jordyn Brooks on a 3-year deal, like, you tell me what you would rather have. Christian Wilkins and all those injuries, or would you rather have the 3-year services of Aaron Brewer and Jordyn Brooks, who have fit this team to an absolute T, both at critical positions offensively and defensively? We oftentimes criticize Chris Grier. We do that a ton. But the move of bypassing the Wilkins contract and spreading out the money to other low-level free agents was an absolute great decision by Mr. Grier. More conversation to come here, but if you want daily Dolphins coverage, this is the channel for you. Subscribe today. Dolphins Today here. We're a family on the road to 71K subscribers. Help us get there, but we're also giving you daily content. You can go down a list of players that Miami probably wish they would have re-signed, and Christian Wilkins is simply not one of them. And this is kind of where we're going to round out the conversation on Wilkins specifically. Like, was he an awesome player for the Fins? Oh, unbelievable. Great pick for Miami in the first round of the draft. He was phenomenal. He was a consistent top 10 defensive lineman in the NFL, and it's why he got that massive contract that he got from the Las Vegas Raiders. And you think about the Andrew Van Ginkels of the world, the Robert Hunts of the world, some of these other players that left Miami and turned out to be really, really good. Well, I think we have to at least acknowledge that Chris Grier made the right decision to not go with Christian Wilkins. And it was not a popular decision at the time. I was not hosting the channel at the time, but it was probably something that I didn't see you guys comment when that stuff happened. But I would have to imagine y'all were not happy. I just know that Dolphins fans on Twitter were not very happy with the decision of letting Christian Wilkins walk. And them deciding to go with different players and keeping them around, like Tyreek Hill, Jalen Ramsey. Just an example there. Obviously, Ramsey no longer with the team. But the point is, it was not a popular decision by Chris Grier to not pay Christian Wilkins. But a year later, unless Wilkins just comes out of nowhere miraculously, has a healed foot, and starts dominating, well, I think Chris Grier made the right call. So hindsight is 2020, but I do have to ask you this. Did Chris Grier make the right decision by not re-signing Christian Wilkins to that massive contract? Type Y if you think he did make the right decision. Type N if you think he still made the wrong decision. Obviously, I've detailed throughout this entire show that I think it's obviously a good decision and they dodged a major bullet. But when you talk specifically on the defensive line room, I actually like where it is at right now. And obviously, it would be shaped completely differently if you did not sign, or if you ended up keeping Christian Wilkins, The current room still has Zach Sealer. You drafted Kenneth Grant in the first round. You brought back Benito Jones. You drafted Zeke Biggers and Jordan Phillips as well. And obviously last season, Calais Campbell probably would not have been on the Dolphins roster if they re-signed Christian Wilkins. And Calais Campbell was absolutely phenomenal. He had a better year than Wilkins because he was able to stay on the field and he was very productive in the run game as well as getting after the quarterback. So when you think of where the defensive line room is at now, it obviously would not have pushed Miami to draft Kenneth Grant and some of these other players if Wilkins was still on the squad. In this defensive line room, we're going to mostly focus on the interior here, is young, it's tough, and full of high-character individuals that you want to build a culture around. Kenneth Grant is one of the most high-culture, high-motor guys that the Dolphins have, and he hasn't even played a snap for them yet. That's the type of player that people have spoken on and the person they have talked about at Michigan and throughout the draft process. Same thing about Jordan Phillips from Maryland. It was always talked about how he was the first one into that Maryland Terrapin building, working on himself in the weight room as well as watching film. His teammate Donter Trader Jr. would always say that about Jordan Phillips. The point is, I like what Miami has done in the trenches, investing in James Daniels offensively alongside Jonah Savignaya, and they're starting to do it on the defensive line as well. I do not think these things would have been made possible if they made the offer that the Raiders did to Christian Wilkins to keep him around. Plus, Wilkins is 29 years of age. 29-year-old about to cross 30 with a Jones fracture injury, making $27 million a year. Yeah, that would have been an absolute disaster. So yes, Miami did dodge a bullet by not giving Wilkins that deal. That'll do it for today's show. Appreciate everybody hanging out and watching with us. If you want more content around the Dolphins, follow me on Twitter at Nic_Rohloff, but also on our Instagram, Dolphins Today IG. We got short-form content and Instagram posts on the daily there. So if you want more 365 coverage around the Fins, you know where to find us on social media.